So what is going on with Xenoblade Chronicles 3? The game bursted onto the scene back in July of 2022, selling 1.7 million copies, being the fastest selling Xenoblade Chronicles game in the history of the franchise, and continuing to sell well throughout the rest of the year. But there's been some controversy that has cropped up with this game, especially when you start comparing it to Xenoblade Chronicles 2. Now, the controversy with it is popular Xenoblade and RPG content creator Eno talked about this on a post, which I did discuss in a live stream, but never formally discussed the controversy on here, in addition to what I think about what's coming next for Xenoblade. So I wanted to tackle it here because I find it to be pretty interesting. Now, in a tweet that I'm paraphrasing, he essentially was upset with the lack of post-game, or more like post-launch content for Xenoblade Chronicles 3 compared to Xenoblade Chronicles 2. Now, if you guys don't remember, Xenoblade Chronicles 2 got a number of updates over 2018. It got new blades, it got quality of life features, it got quests, it got modes. There was a number of things, but I think that there was just a little issue with what people had, with what Enel had to say, and people that were agreeing with him. Xenoblade Chronicles 3 has not received anywhere near the amount of updates that Xenoblade Chronicles 2 got post-launch. But that's because Xenoblade Chronicles 3 actually included a lot of the stuff that was missing in Xenoblade Chronicles 2 right there at launch. So for example, some of the quality of life stuff that people were talking about that was added in Xenoblade Chronicles 2 was already there in Xenoblade Chronicles 3. The map system is way better, the tracking for different quests is way better, the quick swap menus are way better. There's so many things that was built in from a quality of life features that was already in Xenoblade Chronicles 3 that was absent and had to be added in Xenoblade Chronicles 2. Even the sliders with the difficulties was added afterwards in Xenoblade Chronicles 2. Some of the new game plus stuff, all of that. Whereas in Xenoblade Chronicles 3, they had easy, normal, and hard from the very beginning. And they also had new game plus and all that from the very beginning. There wasn't any issue. If you wanted to beat the game, play it through, then play it again, new game plus, whatever the case is, you were good. Plus there was extra content and extra missions unlocked after you beat the game. So it wasn't like they needed an update to add those things in. That stuff was already added in there, and it already included a number of heroes, and also other stuff as well, secret heroes, after you've beaten the game. So it didn't really need a lot of that extra stuff in some people's eyes, but others felt that, hey, they're not doing as much. But I think it's more of an optics thing than it is an actual content thing, because if you look at what Xenoblade Chronicles 3 offered, I feel that it was enough to have a full, complete package of a game and not have to update it here and there and all of that. There is still some things that I haven't went through and done in Xenoblade Chronicles 3, and I'm kind of waiting for that next wave of the DLC to come out in order for me to get through that. But I understand how some people could feel, or at least feel some type of way, that Xenoblade Chronicles 2 added more and was adding so much different stuff, but we have to realize that a lot of that stuff needed to be added afterwards, and the game had issues a lot more compared to Xenoblade Chronicles 3, where that game seemed to be a far more complete game at the launch, and I think that that reflected in the review scores of the game compared to Xenoblade Chronicles 2 and even Xenoblade Chronicles X, where stuff was added later. Xenoblade Chronicles 3 just seemed more complete. Everything was right there. But I think that one of the big controversies with the game too is exactly what's going to be going on with the DLC waves. People feel that there's not enough content, or they're not giving us enough information when it comes to Xenoblade Chronicles 3, because all we've gotten was that one extra hero that we got that was supposed to be like the Poppy replacement, and we haven't really seen anything else outside of that, or even know when the next content is coming. All we know is we have one more DLC wave, Wave 3, and then we also have, which is going to come with the new hero, and then we also have the big story expansion. So I do want to talk about that. So the big story expansion, I think that obviously that's going to be released this year, but the new wave of DLC, I think that they're going to talk about it probably at the next Nintendo Direct. We could get that new hero and that new wave of DLC, and maybe even some information on what the next story expansion is going to be for Xenoblade Chronicles 3. I think those are going to be the two things of focus there, and I personally feel that that is going to blow our minds. Now, I do have some theories, and of course this is a little bit into spoiler territory, not really spoiling the end of the game, but essentially talking about something that happens once you get to a certain part of the game. So I just do want to give you guys the heads up. We are going to be talking about the city when it comes down to it. Now, in the city, you guys all know there is an area where the founders are, and the founders are the people who put together the events in terms of what happened in Xenoblade Chronicles 3. And I think a lot of you guys probably know who I'm talking about when I say that the founders, because the founders and who they are is not clearly defined who it is, but you can pretty much make out who it is. So essentially, with this DLC here, it is very possible that this could be a prequel Founders DLC. So we're going to be able to team up with legendary people in Xenoblade lore, like Rex and also Shulk, in this DLC expansion for Xenoblade Chronicles 3. Now, there's a couple different ways that I feel that they can go about it. They can go about it in a way to where it's two-part, where you go back and you play as them beforehand, and then you also finish the rest of it, and maybe there's a new part in the new age of the game after the game is done, or after the events of Xenoblade Chronicles 3, there is something else, or the whole thing is simply taking place like Torna was, and that's just back in time as a prequel to the original game. There are two very big options here, and I'm very excited to see what they do. Now, I've heard a lot of talk on both sides. There's been discussion, people that have came to my stream and said, yo, OJ, you know what? I'm not so sure about the ending of Xenoblade Chronicles 3. I don't know what to think about it. And then there was other people that were saying, whoa, oh my gosh, I love this. Some people felt that maybe it was just an advertisement for the next DLC. Other people felt that they were like crying and oh my gosh, and it was over emotional, and they loved the ending. Me, I'm like more towards like in the middle. Like I can understand where both sides are coming from. I personally love the ending for Xenoblade Chronicles 3. I love what they did there, and I feel that it was a nice kind of send-off. It didn't completely answer everything, but that's okay. Sometimes you want to leave a few avenues open, so if they ever want to go back to that world or go back to those characters, you can answer those. I think that they answered enough to where I can be satisfied, but at the same time left a few doors just slightly cracked open for fan interpretation or theory or lore videos, whatever the case is. But I would be absolutely ecstatic if we went back in time and we played as the founders in our group, and that's how the two teams kind of meet up and they fight at the beginning because the two worlds are merging there. You actually get to use both of them to fight this extra menace that's going on. That would be quite possibly the greatest end to the Xenoblade Chronicles 1 through 3 trilogy. That would be the ultimate end because you get to use the best characters. Technically, we could be using Melia in addition to Nia, Shulk, Rex, all in the same party with potential other founders and other characters. Goodness gracious, that is like a Xenoblade fan's like dream come true. So I think that there is a lot to kind of discuss in that aspect or that type of way, and I'm really looking forward to seeing exactly what plays out with Xenoblade Chronicles 3 and what they do with that. So what do you guys feel about some of the controversies that have went on? And they're not really major controversies, it's just discussion within the Xenoblade fandom out there. I think that Nintendo and Monolith Soft did a great job of once again creating a game that was pretty much set and complete in terms of what they wanted to do. The development atmosphere was not so problematic that they had to sit there and patch the game over and over and over and over like Xenoblade Chronicles 2 and add all these different type of things like they added, whereas a lot of that stuff like the arena matches and a lot of the different stuff out there was kind of already there. Now I understand that some of it might have been more expanded or even better in Xenoblade Chronicles 2, but I think that Xenoblade Chronicles 3 did enough when it comes to the new stuff, when it comes to the additions, when it comes to the hero system, which just absolutely blows the blade system out of the water, and the busy work that the blade system kind of conjured up for those blades to do. So you would have like 100 of them in your inventory that it'd take a while for them to even be deleted off until an update came out to fix that. So I mean, there was quite a number of different things. So once again, from one side I understand it, but from the other side I'm thinking, well, this game is a complete game, has all the content, has the extra stuff after you beat it, has a lot of the things that came as updates in Xenoblade 2 already packed into the game, with pretty much the only big update for Xenoblade Chronicles 3, and what they did was the loadouts, right? To where you can save your loadouts and switch them up. That should have probably been in the game at launch. If that was in the game at launch, I think the score could have been a little bit better, because that was one of the things that was somewhat of a major issue for people out there. Anytime that you switched classes or did whatever, it would sometimes erase things, sometimes it would remember it. It was kind of finicky with that, and I played through the whole game not having those loadouts, and having those loadouts would have made just swapping so much easier and better. So that's the one thing they kind of messed up on, but outside of that, I think that everything was pretty much complete there at launch. So I think that Xenoblade Chronicles 3, I feel that it's going to have some big information revealed soon, so make sure you guys look out for that. Now let's talk a little bit about the next Nintendo Direct, because I think that the next Nintendo Direct could be big for when they show off some of this stuff. And I also want to discuss some things that have been going around with the Nintendo Direct, and maybe when it could happen, and some fake stuff as well. So yes, Xenoblade Chronicles 3, that could absolutely be at the Nintendo Direct when it comes to the next story expansion, when it comes to the next wave. I'm actually thinking that it is going to be there. But when exactly is that Nintendo Direct going to be? Well, history tells us, shout out to my good friend Paul Gale Network, which I've talked about already on this channel once before, but I'll discuss it again. History shows us that the Nintendo Direct is probably going to be sometime in February. There is about a 60% chance based off the last 10 Nintendo Directs, so about 6 out of 10 from the last ones, we've had a February Nintendo Direct. Sometimes it's been March, there's been other times where it's a bit later, so it really just depends. But we usually have an early full Nintendo Direct. There's been some years where Nintendo does a January Nintendo Direct Mini. They've mixed it up sometimes, but for the most part, February Nintendo Directs are common or somewhat likely. So the last time that we had a Nintendo Direct was September of 2022. So I think that between that time and between now at this point, there's definitely a lot to talk about when it comes to Nintendo's obviously new games that are going to be coming. The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, Advance Wars got an update on like an eShop, so it seems like that game is prepping for a launch as well. There's Bayonetta, there's Kirby, there's quite a number of things that are happening in the first half of this year, and of course Nintendo definitely wants to talk about some of the third-party stuff and also first-party games as well that you'll be able to check out for not only for the summer, but probably a little bit for the fall as well. So I do feel that Nintendo will have a nice Nintendo Direct sometime in February, and if it's not then it'd definitely be early March. Now, the contents of that Nintendo Direct are kind of going around all over the place, right? People are making up leaks, right? There are fake leaks that are going around that are pretty much wish lists out there for certain games or certain stuff. I've seen people talk about different things like, oh, there's going to be a Mario baseball game, and now there's going to be a Golden Sun game, and now there's going to be this and this and this announced, and with like no third party, with no other things. And usually these lists end up being fake. A majority of them are. So I wanted to just let you guys know, be careful about this as we get closer to Nintendo Direct season. Be careful about these fake lists, these fake rumors, and these things popping up out of nowhere from people that are looking for clout when it comes to internet stuff. They just get the feeling of, wow, people actually believe me. They don't really get anything out of it outside of, oh, wow, I was cool, or at least I put this out there and people are looking at it. That's really all it is. So I wouldn't believe a lot of that. Now, one of the big things from these fake lists that are popping up, that I'm not going to share the source and all that, just because I don't want to feed the beast of that, is Golden Sun. Now, look, guys, I've talked about Golden Sun before. When it comes down to it, I think that Golden Sun can be coming back. I don't know if it's going to be a remaster, remake, whatever the case is, but I do think it's possible based off of a rumor that we had. One of the people that got Mario Golf right before it was announced or even known also said that Camelot is working on Golden Sun, but it's very early, and this was a number of years ago. So we just don't know where that's going to ultimately end up. But I am hoping that Golden Sun does come back in some type of meaningful way, and maybe this Nintendo Direct would be a way to get that in there. Golden Sun's been dead for quite some time, but I do feel that Nintendo would at least take a chance at some type of remake or re-release or remaster. I don't know if they'd make a full-scale new Golden Sun, but if they did, that'd be one of the hypest things that they've ever done, because Golden Sun is really good and pretty much was only a portable RPG. We only saw it on the GBA, we saw it on the Nintendo DS, and by that DS third one, they were done with the sales of that game. So I think that Golden Sun has taken a back burner to a lot of other projects that Nintendo is doing or Nintendo's done before, just because of what happened with the DS game, especially on that huge install base. I get that it wasn't the best game out there, but it didn't necessarily do too well. So I'm hoping that we get something cool from Golden Sun. I'm hoping that there is a Nintendo Direct in February, but just watch out for the fake leaks, watch out for the fake stuff, fake lists, all that stuff going around, because people are going to be doing that quite a bit out there. So if you want more content on Xenoblade, guys, I did a great video on Xenoblade in terms of my review. So if you haven't seen that, or if you still aren't sure if you want to get into the Xenoblade universe, check out some of the videos that I have below. I think I can let you know about the game. Also, we have some content on Fire Emblem Engage where I discussed how some of the reviews are wrong about the game. So all of that, link in the description below, and will also be right here on the page. Thank you so much for watching. We'll catch you for the next video. Peace.